It's time for Positive Living with Patricia Raskin. The views and opinions of the host and callers are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or sponsors. And now, looking on the positive side of life, here's Patricia Raskin with Positive Living.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Positive Living. I'm Patricia Raskin. Our program is brought to you by Carteret General Hospital, Brooks Funeral Home, Smith & Associates Family Dentistry, and Distinctive Teak, all in Morehead City. My show, Positive Living, brings you practical solutions and positive principles to help you live happy, empowered, and successful lives. Tonight, I have a very special program for you. It is pre-recorded, so you won't be calling in, but I am very honored to have on the program Jane Seymour, who is an acclaimed actress with more than 50 motion pictures and television programs to her credit. She is the author of the new book, hot off the press, Remarkable Changes, Turning Life's Challenges into Opportunities. Welcome, Jane Seymour.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to talk about your very first chapter of your book, which is when you talk about looking at your roots. You say you really have to go back and do that. Now, you did that after you had some dramatic turning points and some real challenges in your life. How easy is that to do, Jane, for people, and what do they have to do? Do you think that they should go into therapy? How do you think people should help themselves in that way?
I'm not against therapy. I think therapy can be a very useful way, really, to be listened to and for, at the same time, for you to hear yourself. But, another way of doing it, I think, would be just to write down your story for yourself, or really just to talk to someone about it and face it. But I looked at my roots. I think being an actress, you're asked to play different characters and how to put yourself in character and to kind of relate to different things that different people do as different characters. And of course, in the context of being an actress, I look at my own life and I look at my own experience and I try to relate to that in terms of the character. So I suppose I sort of give myself an analysis just in the job that I do. Just, looking at your childhood, how you fit in at school, how you related with your parents, and what your drives were and what your ups and downs have been and kind of assessing who you are and where you came from.
Now, you had a very nice childhood. You had wonderful, supportive parents. Now, even though your mother was a survivor of a Japanese prisoner of a war camp, that was difficult, but she gave you a lot of courage and strength and belief in yourself. So did your father, who was a physician. Talk about what you've learned from your mother's incredible strength.
Well, I learned a great deal from my mother. I think she taught me, and as did my father, that you can only ever do your own best. So that whatever the circumstances that happen in your life and whatever it is that you're trying to do, that if you feel you did the best you could under the circumstances, then that is good enough.
And as a teen and as a child, your dream was to be a ballerina.
Yes.
So when you did your best and that didn't work for you, how did they encourage you to move on to what you wanted to do?
I had a passion, and they really wanted me to become a teacher, but I really didn't want to become a teacher. I just somehow knew that I wanted to perform, and I think what they did is they left the sort of the door for me to communicate. I was able to talk about what I wasn't comfortable doing. I mean, they had choices they thought would be right for me, and they actually listened to me when I said, those choices are not what I want. They're not what I think I want. And they allowed me to try and do what it was that I thought I wanted to do. They all thought I was making a huge mistake, trying to become an actress. But, they also believed in me, and the way they raised me was to say, well, these are from our experience, what could happen and what couldn't happen. Obviously, it's up to you to make the choice, but, from our experience, this is how we think, you might want to make a choice.
And yet they taught you to be very resourceful. I mean, you learned how to make clothes and plant gardens and do a lot of things as a child. And when you then later had financial issues and it was difficult, did those things help you?
Oh, absolutely. I think I learned a great deal from my parents and a great deal of respect for people who learned how to do things when they needed to. Being able to do everything was very important. I did learn to cook. I learned to sew. I spent time in hospitals. I learned how to be an auxiliary nurse and how to help heal people. And I learned a lot of languages. I really learned a great deal, but I think also I learned from my father a passion for learning. It was very interesting. Right to the end, he never stopped learning and trying to figure out new stuff. So I think really what they gave me was a passion for life. And
speaking
we
of,
didn't have any money, we had to make things ourselves and make things happen. But money was never of any importance in our family.
That was a question that I've been thinking about all week. I wanted to ask you is how important is money, and has your celebrity status helped you along the way because of resources that you may have had?
Well, I've been up and I've been down. I mean, when I started, I had pretty much nothing, and then I earned some money, and when I came to America, I had absolutely nothing. And I think because money was never very important in my family, that I never really particularly needed or wanted it, but I don't like to be in debt. I mean, obviously, I like nice things. I really like the freedom that money gives you in terms of being able to travel places. For example, my mother and my family are in England, and if I want to go and see them tomorrow, I know I can afford to get on an airplane and do it. And I live in a very nice house now, and I have nice things. But not that long ago, I had nothing. I lost everything. I was beyond bankrupt. I was in terrible financial straits. And really, when it came down to it, money really is, you don't take money with you. Money is only useful if you can do something with it. To me, it's only gratifying to have something if you feel you can give it away and you can help other people or you can share it in some way.
What are some of
that's how I see money. Money is just an ability to make things happen.
So what are some of the lessons that you teach your children about money?
I think in a way it's tough on kids if they are raised with money because they don't have the incentive to go out and earn it. They're not hungry enough. And so actually my kids don't get any money really. They're not, I'm told, spoiled. I mean, I don't think they are. They work very hard for whatever they have. They don't sort of insist on buying things. They're not sort of major shoppers or anything like that. They don't demand toys or want this and that. They save what pocket money they get or money from the Tooth Fairy or whatever it is, and they like to give their money away. They like to, if they think that's something important that they want to contribute to, or if they want to buy something for someone, they'll use the money that way. But they don't think about money very much, and it's not really part of their lives particularly.
Do you think because of the way that you were raised that when you went through the hard times it was easier for you to get through them because you went through some tough times, and we'll talk about them, the near-death experiences and the difficult birth of your children, but you've also come through some amazing things. What do you think it is, Jane, that has gotten you through these times?
I think it has been being honest with myself at the time that each thing happened and kind of being in the moment, acknowledging what was happening, however difficult it was, allowing myself to process whatever grief that entailed or frustration or disappointment and really allow myself to feel those things and express myself. But then somehow I am able to move on. Now, a lot of people don't. A lot of people kind of get stuck in a like a long playing record with a scratch that keeps going round and round and round, and they find themselves going round and round. What coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I try to get rid of all those words. I try to go back to, well, under the circumstances, did I do the best I could possibly have done under those circumstances? Yes. Therefore, tomorrow we'll be here, and I'll just see what I can do tomorrow. And if I was very ill and I was on, near death, I would just say to myself, okay, I will have confidence in the people who are looking after me, and I will do everything I possibly can to look after myself and kind of hang in there.
Well, in reading the book and looking at the 3 near-death experiences you had, which were amazing, and some of them where you saw yourself from above the room and others where you hallucinated and had your father spoke to you during that point, all of those experiences, to me, say that you were meant to stay here for some very important reason. Do you think there's a special mission that you have in your work? I don't look upon it as a mission. I just feel like
there are things I'm capable of doing that I would like to do, and I'm not a great one for talking about what I'm going to do. I tend to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I almost died, I remember quite clearly thinking to myself, oh, no, there's more I want to do in life. And the things that I have been doing since are the kinds of things that I feel I will continue to do until the day I die, and that is doing the best I can to help other people, to raise my kids to be and want to do the same thing, to raise them to have a passion in life, to just use my abilities to the best that I possibly can for the good of more than just one person.
One of the things that really struck me that I'd really like to talk about is how you have remained friends with all of your former husbands, even though you had to work through the pain of your marriage to David Flynn, the father of your children. And, you had problems financially, almost to the point of bankruptcy, but you have gone on to work through all of that and become good friends not only with him, but with one of your former husbands, Jeffrey Planner, who you call Jeep, who has written a children's book with you.
Yeah.
Now, that's remarkable for many people. I guess two questions. One is how you did that, Jane, and what advice do you give to people going through these nasty divorces that spend all of this money and hurt the children in the process? Talk about that.
Oh, gosh, there's a whole book in that one, that's for sure. Well, first of all, I have been married 4 times, and in fact, last week I was with my 2 other ex-husbands, with Michael Attenborough and Jeffrey Planer, and spent some wonderful hours with both of them, both of whom have become very close friends with my husband, James Keach. So all 4 husbands, we all get along really well.
How do you make that happen?
And I also made friends with the ex-wives, all of the ex-wives, every single one, including my James's ex-wife, who I recently saw at the funeral of my father-in-law. And how do I make it happen? I feel that when you've loved someone enough to marry them or to have a very special relationship, that there is a bond there, that there was something there, and your relationship changes. I mean, I have a respect for those people. I have a respect for the fact that I did care a great deal about them at one time. And there's a love that still continues, but not a love in that I would want to be married to them or live with them or, have that kind of relationship with them. But do I care about them? I mean, yes. I mean, absolutely. I mean, if I know that Michael is having a hard time, or if I hear that he's had a great success, that matters to me. In the same way with Jeffrey and with David, I care about his well-being, but I don't necessarily need to be part of his life.
What advice do you give to women going through tough divorces?
Okay, I have some good advice here. I just see people making terrible mistakes when it comes to the children. And really the interesting thing is when you've been through a divorce, the lawyers are the only winners. They make a ton of money out of it. And they make money out of making you mad, making you so crazed that you find yourself, spending more and more and more money on a divorce. And I think what you can do is if you know the relationship is over and you know you want to separate and you know you have children and you know you have property, if only people could be honest and they could just divide this, and just say, okay, we were together for X amount of time, we both put 100% of our effort into this relationship, and we have children, and we put 100% of our time and love into, and we care about these children, and we will always be the parents of these children. Let us separate, the money angle and the possession angle from the children. The whole aspect of being parents, whether you're divorced or you're still married, you will always be the parents of those children. And they have to know that they can love you and that they can see you and speak to you and be with you and be loved by you for the rest of their days. And so the kindest thing you can do is to find some way that works for them, that they feel that they have unlimited opportunities to see and speak to you.
On that note, we're
and
going to
do.
Wonderful. We're going to take a break. We are talking to the remarkable Jane Seymour, who is the author of the book Remarkable Changes, Turning Life's Challenges into Opportunities. Folks, this is a brand new book, hot off the press. I'm very fortunate to be able to interview Jane Seymour now at the beginning of this wonderful tour. We'll be right back.